Good morning. It's time for us to begin our class, and appreciate everyone being here, especially those here in the auditorium, but also those that may be online. We want to thank each of you being here with us today. We'll be finishing the chapter of Genesis 45 and going into chapter 46 today is what we'll be doing for those that may not know that at home, but there we are. I'd like to go over our announcements. Again, please remember our homebound members: Brenda Baxter, Jerry Koss, Johnny Garrison, Billy Latham, Joe and Faye Latham, Brandon Ligon, Jean Odom, Darlene Pugh, Faye Rice, Marilyn Sanders, LaBelle Stiers, Jimmy Sullivan, Jackie Swift, and Dan Whitstone. So please remember them. And tonight, on our evening service at 5, this is the first Sunday night of the month, and what we've been doing and still doing it, going to do it some more, is learning some new songs. And so if you can, please be here for that and help us. Songs always sound better with a lot of voices, and so we hope everybody that is able to come to that. The next part there is about the campus ministry, and they've got several things down there. You can look at those, but what I'd like to read is at the bottom of the page there. It says, if y'all may have noticed out there on the tables, there are some tables out there with pictures and stuff. It says, new paper photo directory is ready for editing. The directory is taped to the tables in the foyer. Please look at your entry and make any corrections necessary. The final print will be distributed February the 19th to all members of the congregation. If you do not review your entry and is not corrected, it will be incorrect as the directory goes out. So please just take a moment. There's some pencils or ink pens out there on the table, and you can make any corrections that need to be done out there for that. Especially on phone numbers and addresses. Phone numbers and addresses, especially. Our prayer request, we'd like to go over. Brenda Baxter has been moved to Aspire for rehab following her heart attack. So we're happy for that. And Billy Glenn is still dealing with multiple health issues. Randy Swift is undergoing treatments for reoccurrence of prostate cancer, and they are out in either New Mexico or Arizona at this time, visiting family and so forth. And so he's doing that there. Mary Ellison, sister of Betty Thomas, is under hospice care in Childersburg still. And Jimmy Harden, the stepfather of Carrie Crow, has started chemo and is doing well. Tim King, son of James and Joanne King and brother of Kim Burkhalter, is receiving treatments for liver and lung cancer, and there's his address there. Please send him a card. Jesse Parham, brother of Addie Layton, is receiving treatments for stomach cancer. Dale Reeves, father of Tasha Jones, is under hospice care. Shane Reeves, the brother also of Tasha Jones, is struggling with advanced cancer at this time. And Camille Winkler, former member here, is still undergoing treatments for cancer. So please remember them. There'll be a brief 5-minute meeting this morning after services in room 23 for Little Ladies Day for the ladies that want to see about that. There's going to be in room 23. And on February the 14th, Tuesday Q will be from 11 to 1. And please come to that. Bring your friends and co-workers, so forth like that. Also, Lads to Leaders is going to be coming soon. The convention will be on Easter weekend. Lift Up will have a brief kickoff meeting next Sunday, the 12th, after the morning worship. The program will work similar to Adopt a Student program and will offer opportunities to encourage each other. This is a way to where we can hopefully help our homebound members, let them know that we still care for them. And also, it's amazing, some of them at times will request cards and envelopes and so forth like that, and they send cards out themselves. So it's a way to try to help our homebound members to have contact with us, actual contact, whether it is by cards, by phone calls, or even if they are able to have you to come by, something like that. So that's the idea behind that. Also, on February the 22nd, there'll be another fish fry. They should not have put Miney Share's name in there, but anyway. I do catch them, but I didn't want my name in it. But on February the 22nd for the Young at Heart and the Wednesday morning class like we did last time that we had it. Be glad to have you come. There will be a sign-up sheet in the office to go by there. And I know on this coming Wednesday morning and the next Wednesday morning, there'll be a sheet when you get to go into class on Wednesday morning if you need to sign it then. So just let us know how many is coming. Last time we had between 40 and 50. For some reason, that was the biggest Wednesday morning class they've had. So maybe we're going to have the second biggest class next time. I don't know. But we enjoy doing it. We hope you enjoy it and can have a time to where I know that when we start to get the age that we are, some of us, not everybody in here, okay, but some of us, it's kind of hard to make 2 trips a week out or 3 trips out a week. So we try to do this to where we can have it to where we can have some fellowship with each other and enjoy that time. Also, another thing for Young at Heart is this, a day trip, March the 7th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Be going to Ava Maria Grotto, that's Jerusalem in miniature, and the shops at the Smith's Farm, and going to plan to eat lunch at a place called Puckett's, and so please sign in the foyer if you want to attend that. So please do that. Friday, February the 10th at 6 p.m., Ray Burkhalter has invited the ladies of the congregation to her house for is that Galentine's party? That's what I thought, but I didn't know. But I saw it somewhere else. Yeah, okay. This will be, isn't it nice to know somebody else types like me? And it'll be a night to come together and enjoy the friendship we have been blessed with. And you can see her about information on it, and there's the address. Be a good time for the ladies to get together. And then on the back, our birthdays on the 1st was Mildred. She had her birthday, Mildred Whitlock, and the 2nd was James Whitson, and tomorrow will be my wife Sherry's birthday, and she's not in here, but happy birthday anyway. And then Wilson Burkhalter will have a birthday on the 8th, so let's especially Wilson. I know he'll get a kick out if anybody walk up and say happy birthday to him, so if you get that opportunity, hopefully you'll do that. If there's nothing else, let's bow our head and we'll go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you at this time thanking you so much for all the wonderful things in life you give us. We know that there's times that we forget all the wonderful blessings you have bestowed upon us, but we do want to remember and let you know and remind ourselves of how wonderful you have been to us, and we thank you so much. The fact that Jesus came and did what he did on this earth is amazing to us and has given us that assurance that we can have a home in heaven someday. Father, we want to pray for those that we mentioned in our sick and shut-ins and so forth like that. Please help each one to have the best day that they can today, and whatever level it may be. We want all of these people to know that we are thinking about them and we care about them. We hope that through medicines and doctors and so forth, that they'll get to feeling better soon. Pray that you'll be with us as we go through this class and help us through this day. And that we pray that we'll have a great and wonderful worship this morning to you. In your Son's name we pray. Amen. What I'd like to do, if you notice up here, I was going to go back just a little bit. We were right at the end of chapter 45, so I wanted to finish that up, and then we'll get right into 46. And if you remember, in 45, in chapter 45, the subtitle of that chapter in my Bible reads this: Joseph deals kindly with his brothers. And so he does tell them about who he is, about he is their brother Joseph, and he cried and so forth like that. And then in verse 14, he fell on his brother Benjamin's neck and cried and kissed him and so forth, and Benjamin wept too. And so we see that, and then we are getting to the part of the chapter to where the Pharaoh has heard about this and so forth. And so the question here is, what did Pharaoh tell Joseph to say to his brothers? And it was this: do this, load your beast and go to the land of Canaan. That's back to where his father was. So he told him to go back. And, of course, we're going to see why in just a moment. What did Pharaoh tell them to do when they got to Canaan? In verse 18 was this: take your father and your households and come to me, and I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you shall eat the fat of the land. Now, I don't know if you know very much about geography, but if you were to look, especially today, it would be totally different than what it was then. But the best land in Egypt was where the Nile River was. And that was because of several things. One, as the river would flood through the springs and so forth, it would bring nutritional soil and stuff down the rivers, down the Nile River. And also there was the water. And so when you have water and good soil, then you can grow very, very good stuff. And so here's something that the Pharaoh is doing for Joseph. I don't know if you've thought about it very much, but this just probably lets us know how much the Pharaoh cared for Joseph, because to be honest with you, there's no doubt if Joseph had not told him what God told Joseph in a dream, and then they prepared for the famine, then very likely the nation of Egypt would have been wiped out too. You just don't know. But they were the ones that were the strongest and could help others. And so there's no doubt that Pharaoh then, showing his care and love for Joseph, was willing to give his father and their people the best that they had in Egypt. And so that's a wonderful thing to see. What was Joseph's brothers to take from Egypt? Take wagons for your little ones. If you remember last week we mentioned, I think we did, was this. The other two times they had left, they took their donkeys that they had with them. Well, a donkey can only carry so much. Well, this time he told them to carry wagons. So that would have allowed them to bring more back because of what he said. He said, take wagons for your little ones, for the families, and your wives, and bring your father and come. In other words, bring all your people, go get them, and bring them back down to Egypt. Now remember, this is still during the time of the famine, is what's going on. So he told him to do this. What did Joseph give to each of his brothers before they went back to Canaan? In verse 22, he gave each of them a change of garments, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of garments. Now again, they tended to undoubtedly have, like we know, Joseph was the one that his dad loved the most, and then Benjamin because of the mother. But the point is that he turned right around, gave his other brothers a certain amount of stuff, and then he basically lavished onto his brother Benjamin of what he did. But it doesn't say anywhere in here, in the Scriptures, that his brothers resented this. They did not at that time. There's no doubt in my mind they were grateful for whatever they could get, and so that was not an issue this time. But he did that, and he was his blood brother. The other brothers were half-brothers. All the other brothers were. And so that would make him and Benjamin have a special bond with each other. What did Joseph send to his father? And there was 3 things. There were 3 things that he sent to him. 1, 10 donkeys loaded with the best things in Egypt. Do not know what that was at that time. Don't know if it was money, if it was fragrances, if it was food. I just don't know. But whatever the best things were in Egypt, 10 donkeys. Now, that is quite a few animals that can carry quite a bit of material. So there was no doubt that if you were to put it all in a pile, as we would say, there's probably been a very large pile of stuff that he was sending to his father, and that was one thing that he was sending to him. Secondly, 10 female donkeys loaded with grain and bread. So the first one had gifts of whatever it might have been from Egypt. And then the second gift he was sending was another 10 donkeys, but it was females that would carry the grain and the bread. And that would be that. And so why was that the sustenance for his father on the journey? Do not know. Now, if you look on a map, I'm just guessing, from where Canaan is down to Egypt was hundreds of miles. It may have been, I don't know, it may have been 1,000 miles. I just don't remember right now. Apologize for not knowing that. But it was a long trip. And now, look at the times between his brother, the trips. First of all, Joseph made the trip when he was sold off. And then his brothers came down and went back, came down and went back. And now they're being told to bring the family, all the people of Jacob down there. And so they had to have enough food to bring everyone down, however many people it was. As Joseph sent his brothers on their way, what did he tell them? Do not quarrel on the journey. I have no idea why that was put in there. I really don't know. Unless, I don't know what they would be quarreling about, unless, with Benjamin, unless there was Benjamin and all the other stuff, he had more than them. Maybe he remembered what his brother was like before. I just don't know. But he wanted them, I feel sure, to go back to their father in a happy situation, and because they're going to give some good news to the father when they get there. Maybe they were quarreling about how they were going to tell the father about Joseph. I don't know. Because remember, up until now, Joseph, as far as Jacob knew, was just the second in command in Egypt. And whatever, remember that long name he had, whatever that name was, that's all he knew of him, and that the sons had trouble dealing with him. And that's all he would have known. So maybe that's why he told them, do not quarrel on the journey, on your way back home. What did the brothers tell their father when they got home? And also, how did their father react? So you can only imagine the deed they had done 17, 18 years or so, somewhere in there, over 15 years, I think, before. Just think of what they had to go and tell their father. For all them years, what did his father think had happened? He had thought that Joseph had been eaten by a wild animal and killed. All this time, all the mourning he would have done. So here's what it is. Now, so here is the statement in 26. In verse 26, it says, hang on here, 26. So when they went up to Egypt and they came to the land of Canaan to their father Jacob, and then it says this, and they said, Joseph is still alive, and indeed he is ruler over all of the land of Egypt, is what they said there. So that was as old saying, that was a big pill for the dad to swallow, to think all them years, all that mourning and heartache he had. And they come back and they find out that he is alive. And not only alive, but he is in a position of extreme power in the land of Egypt. And so how did their father react? Wouldn't you be the same way? But he was stunned, for he did not believe them. Now, I wonder why he didn't believe them. It might have been because we know that the brothers all them years kept that secret away from their father. He never did find out about it. So here all of a sudden he found out about it. And so of all the times, no telling how many times he had prayed to the Father in heaven about Joseph, about missing him and so forth like that, yet for this to occur. When something like this is told to people, a lot of times they will say this. They will become a doubting Thomas, won't they? Y'all remember Thomas in the New Testament? When he said, I will not believe, I do not believe that Jesus has arose until I do what? Hands. See the holes in his hands, the spear where the spear went in his side, so forth like that. So I can understand that Jacob would have been like this. He said, I'm not going to get my hope up. But anyway, of course, it's wonderful what they were able to tell him. After Jacob heard their words and saw the wagons what happened to him? The spirit of their father Jacob revived. And so he got to the point where when he saw all that, he really believed that what they said was true about Joseph. What was Jacob's reply to his sons? And it says, "It is enough. My son Joseph is still alive. I will go and see him before I die." And that would have been the goal of the father. Now, Joseph would have been somewhere around in his 30s in there at the time. And so now Jacob has a reason to live, and that is to stay alive long enough to see his sons, what he wants to do. And that ends chapter 45. And so we would like to look now at chapter 46. And this one is Jacob moves to Egypt. So what I'd like to do, like we've been doing, if you'll bear with me, I'm going to read this chapter, and then we'll start looking at our questions. All right, chapter 46. So Israel set out. Now, remember who Israel is. This could be two things. Number one is that is Jacob's name. God changed it to Israel. But so here he is. So Israel set out with all that he had and came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. And God spoke to Israel in visions of the night and said, "Jacob, Jacob." And he said, "Here I am." And he said, "I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid. Go down to Egypt. Not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you a great nation there. I will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also surely bring you up again, and Joseph will close your eyes." Then Jacob arose from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried their father Jacob and their little ones and their wives and the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. And they took their livestock and their property, which they had acquired in the land of Canaan, and came to Egypt, Jacob and all his descendants with him, and his sons and his grandsons with him, his daughters and his granddaughters, and all his descendants he brought with him to Egypt. Now these are the names of the sons of Israel, Jacob and his sons, who went to Egypt: Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and the sons of Reuben, Hanok and Palu, and Hezron and Carmi. And the sons of Simeon, Jeuel and Jamin and Obed and Jason and Zorhar and Shahu, the son of a Canaanite woman. And the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kedah and Miriam. And the sons of Judah, and Onan and Shilhan and Perez and Zephan. But and Onan died in the land of Canaan, and the sons of Perez was Hezron and Hemu. I had no idea these names were here. I apologize. I would have looked them up and said them better, so I'm doing the best I can right now. Let's see now. The sons of Issachar, Tola and Puvah, and Lob, Ab, and Shimron, and the sons of Zebulun, Sherad and Elon and Jehiel. These are the sons of Leah, who she bore to Jacob in Paddan-aram with his daughter Diana. All his sons and his daughters numbered 33. And the sons of Gad, Zephaniah and Haggai and Shani and Zebdan, Era and Arad and Eri. The sons of Asher, Ishna and Ishva and Beran and their sister Sharon. And the sons of Bera, the Hebnar and Malachi. These are the sons of Zilpah. And now that was a maid. She was one of the maids. You know, there's two maids he had children by, is what it was there. whom Laban gave to his daughter Leah, and she bore Jacob these 16 persons. The sons of Jacob's wife Rachel was Joseph and Benjamin. Now to Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of Onah, bore to him. And the sons of Benjamin, Bela and Besher, and Ashbel, and Jerah, and Naham, Eham, and Rosh, and those other ones there. These are the sons of Rachel who were born to Jacob. There were 14 persons in all. That's all I need. And the sons of Dan. Now remember that. Have y'all noticed these names, the sons' names, about being a part of the 12 tribes of Israel? Now remember, Jacob is Israel, but the people that was his people were known as Israelites. They were the nation of Israel. The nation of Jacob is what they were later on. And so I'm just going to not worry about 24 and 25, but there was Dan. Now 26, all the persons belonging to Jacob who came to Egypt, his direct descendants, not including the wives of Jacob's sons, were 66 persons in all. Now we saw earlier, one of them had 16, so there was more people. So there was, as we saw, 66, so there's probably close to 100, counting the rest of them. And the sons of Joseph who were born to him in Egypt were 2. And all the persons of the house of Jacob who came to Egypt, it was 70. So from Jacob, he brought 70 people down. Remember that number, that 70 right there. Now he sent Judah before him to Joseph to point out the way before him to Goshen. And they came into the land of Goshen. And Joseph prepared his chariot and went up to Goshen to meet his father Israel. As soon as he appeared before him, he fell on his neck and wept on his neck a long time. Then Israel said to Joseph, "Now let me die, since I have seen your face, that you are still alive." And Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, "I will go up and tell Pharaoh, and will say to him, my brothers and my father's household, who were in the land of Canaan, have come to me. And the men are shepherds, for they have been keepers of livestock. And they have brought their flocks, and their herds, and all that they have. And it shall come about when Pharaoh calls you and says, what is your occupation? That you shall say, your servants have been keepers of livestock from our youth even until now, both we and our fathers, that you may live in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is loathsome to the Egyptians." Now, a quick little jump ahead just for a moment. You remember when Moses comes to Egypt to bring God's people out. Do you know who those God's people were? Who they started with? Those 70. Those 70 people that went down to Egypt. There's 400 and something years, if I remember right. I hope my memory's holding me right there. But the point is this. It has been estimated. It's been estimated. I don't know how people can do this, but they've estimated probably from 70 people in that 400 something years how many children that could have been born. But it's been estimated that over 1 million people left Egypt with Moses. Started with 70. Isn't that pretty neat? Here we are, we're seeing the very beginning. And though God had promised, see, their land was around Canaan and Jerusalem and all in there. That was their land that God is going to give them, but they had to go to Egypt because of the famine. But isn't it kind of neat how these things work out like that? So we see that right there. So it's about 5 minutes. So let's look right here at this. We'll get the beginning of this anyway. First question: Israel set out with all that he had and went to where? And we know that it was Beersheba. And what did he do when he got there? Now, again, this is not an uncommon thing. It says here, offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. Quite often they would make, sometimes pile rocks up, and we might call it a monument today, but they would do that. And so, but anyway, when he got to that place, I do not remember now, again, I apologize for this, I got a little slack on this, but don't know how far they went, if it was more than a day or just a day's trip or what it would have been with all his family. Now remember, there's going to be 70 people and all their flocks, all their herds, and the animals and the wagons that Pharaoh had sent up there and everything. They're going to be bringing them back. And another thing, if you remember, one of the things they sent first, one of the first things was basically monetary gifts and so forth like that. So if they needed to buy anything or trade with somebody, they'd have something to do that with on the way. But they had all their stuff, and they was bringing it down there. So when he got to this place, he stopped and offered sacrifices to God. And there's no doubt in my mind that he was a very happy father at that time, knowing what he was going to get to do very soon. What did God say to Israel? And he said, Jacob, Jacob. Now, a little bit, isn't this a little bit similar to what happened to Paul or Saul on the road to Damascus? He heard a voice too. And of course, this here was in a dream, so forth like this. And what did Israel say in return? And here I am. Also, if you remember back, Abraham, so forth like that, when it's not uncommon to hear the phrase, here I am. And so it is that at that time. What did God say to Israel about going down to Egypt? And it says, do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you a great nation there. Two things. Undoubtedly, there must have been some type of fear between people over in around Canaan and Jerusalem, all over in there, and all the way down to Egypt. Now, Egypt was a mighty nation, and they had conquered many a people through the years. So he just wanted to reassure him to go down there. And here's another promise that God has made to one of our Bible heroes. And it's this, for I will make you a great nation there. And that's exactly what it was. Now, did it say here that I will make you a great nation of easy living and no problems or anything like that? Answer to that is no. Answer to that is no. They had, as time went by, they had a lot of problems down there. But before it's over with, that promise in verse 3 will be fulfilled whenever Moses is taking the people out of Egypt. And they did become a great nation. Who will go down to Egypt with Israel? I will go down with you. And that's God, what he's talking about. Who will close Israel's eyes? Now this is here, again, God talking to him. It says, Joseph will close your eyes. In verse 4, it says, I will go down with you, talking about God, because in verse 3 it says, I am God, the God of your father. And then it says, and I will also surely bring you up again, and Joseph will close your eyes. That phrase there, close, let me see here. Put his hand on. Excuse me. You may have seen in movies and so forth like that sometimes when someone passes away that their eyes are still open. And that may be a reference to this. I don't know. But anyway, Joseph, whenever his father passes away, will close Jacob's eyes in that time. Probably no more fitting, though, than that being the case. And that can give encouragement to Jacob about that, or Israel at that time. Where did Jacob arose from? Beersheba is what he did. So they stayed there overnight or several nights. We just don't remember. I think it's just one night. What did his sons do? Now, it says here his sons carried their father Jacob and their little ones and their wives in the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. So undoubtedly, Jacob was at the time, if I remember right, he's going to be, okay, He lived to be 147 years old, is what Jacob did. We'll find that out in the next chapter, 47. But it must have got to the point to where he had difficulty walking and so forth like that. Does that happen to us? Do we have aches and pains and can't hardly get around at times and stuff? Yes, we do. And it's just part of the cycle of life is what it is. And so Jacob or Israel had some of the same issues. So their sons carried their father and their little ones and their wives in the wagons that Pharaoh had sent to them. I think it's what else did they take with them to Egypt? And they took their livestock and their property, his sons and his grandsons with him, and his daughters and all his granddaughters. So again, 70 people with all they had. Now, Jacob would have had stuff, and all the other people there would have material things, animals or whatever, other family members, and they would take them down to Egypt. Reuben was Jacob's what? And he was his firstborn of his sons that he had, his 12 sons. Who were Reuben's sons? Hanok and Pau and Hezron and Carmi is who they are right there. And so we're going to stop right there because I know what we're fixing to get into. I'll have to study how to say the names. So I'd rather try to say them as right as I can. So we'll be going back over that. So we're going to stop here, and we will start in verse 10 next week. I do have out here chapters 47 and 48 printed if any of you would like to get a copy of those. So we'll stop here, and we'll get ready for worship this morning. Thank you very much for being here today.